virtual friends, a new Vision Pro utility, and an Audiobooks lawsuit. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by MacPaw, the makers of Clean My Mac, your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. Try Clean My Mac for 7 days free, then use the code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's CLNMY.com/MacVoices. Is the Vision Pro's killer app the AI girlfriend?
I saw her first. I want to let you know. All you guys, nope, I called dibs. Probably, I hate to say it, it could be a killer app. There are, and the article is a great article. It goes into a lot of other virtual friends that you can do on different platforms. And yeah, I mean, they mentioned one in the article about Replica, which is basically creating a little 3D friend that you can have in your living room and you can communicate with. I bring that out and show it when I give talks on VR at conferences, and it scares the hell out of counselors because who needs to pay for a counselor when you can create your own little friend? So there's just for my field, there's a whole possibility with these kinds of things in terms of if you bring it into the counseling with you, you don't ignore the fact that your clients are having these kinds of virtual relationships. And you have that as a point of discussion and a point of what they're learning from that experience. So yeah, it's this I think could be an area. Well, they already have one app. I can't remember the name of it, Eric, but it is expensive, and it's like your personal assistant that you can have conversations with. And I used it for about a week and then shut it down. Well, I knew I was going to shut it down because just the cost of the app in VR. But this is Vision Pro is ripe for picking with these kinds of things, and also some more insidious things that they could be doing in 3D.
The article points out that in the film Blade Runner 2049, Ryan Gosling's Officer K had a live-in girlfriend, which was an AI. And okay, so that's science fiction, but have we just caught up to that? And Marty, your comments about who needs a real counselor when you can have a little virtual friend. Right away, when you said that, my first thought was Tony Montana saying, "Say hello to my little friend," and blowing everybody away. But you know, I talked about this a few months ago, going to CES and watching people interact with the little robot dog-like things, and approach them exactly like they would a dog. You know, to the point of, sticking your hand out and almost letting it sniff the hand and, maybe petting it or something like that, kneeling down to it. Maybe this isn't as strange as some people would think.
We've had AR generated stuff before, or VR generated stuff. If you think of Second Life, that was a whole world that you entered with your avatar and other people entered, and you interacted with them for whatever purpose or whatever relationship you're going to have with them. So this concept is not new, and people can become very dependent on that. They can also be very helpful. It's just how they are integrated into the work that they're doing if they're seeing somebody to deal with issues.
And you think about the people that get hooked on chat rooms and hooked on video chats, and sometimes the more salacious video chats. But and they spend an awful lot of money and an awful lot of time on those things. But they create relationships kind of on their own terms. And I feel like that might be what you will potentially have the ability to do here if you have the need or the desire to. That's the one thing that I don't know how to gauge that. And I'm curious here, and leave out all the jokes, guys. Do you feel the need to have a virtual friend?
I don't.
Uh-oh, Eric's looking pensive
Well,
now.
it's not a virtual friend that's a problem. It's the whole group. You pick one virtual friend, and you've got a virtual dog, and then you've got the virtual assistant for the friend, and then that the virtual group is spending all the time conversing with somebody else's virtual friend and using up all of your bandwidth. So AT&T is happy and sponsoring additional virtual friends, and pretty soon you're out in the woods camping to get away from the virtual family and have some alone time. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities there, and a lot of really good camping in my future, I think.
Webb, what would the Quilt Queen say about you having a virtual friend?
Not going there. I'm just not going there. I'm sorry. She's right there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I was just going to say, we won't tell her, but.
When Webb says she's right there, is he referring to his virtual friend, or is he referring to his spouse?
And like I said, jokes aside, would I want a virtual dog or a real dog? I'm going to lean to the real dog. Don't ask me why. Just that humanity side of it. If I wanted to be ignored, I'd get a cat. So, but I don't know. It's seems kind of weird. Maybe I'd have to live it a little bit to see if it's how realistic the virtual unrealistic part is. I don't know. It doesn't get me excited. I'll put it that way. In any realm,
Okay, that's fair.
Get off my lawn.
I'm going to jump on the opposite end of this, because I've seen this, the ability to use virtual friends important to people who are agoraphobic and won't go out of the house, that they've got somebody they can talk to. People who have anxieties, they can work through the reduction of their anxiety by having engagement with a virtual friend. People who are coming out and are questioning in terms of their sexual orientation, they have an opportunity to do that, whether it's in like Second Life with a real person behind an avatar, or whether it's behind a virtual avatar that they've created to have conversations with. All of these things are, I think, the step between not doing anything in those realms and doing something in the real world realm for a lot of folks.
Marty, I don't deny that there could be a very serious and very positive clinical application, and I think that would be great. It's I'm just looking at as a general public rule. It's like I said, I'd rather get a dog, but I don't disagree.
I have a dog. Would you like it?
Okay.
He's right there.
Brian, help me out. You could help Webb out, get him out of this.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? But almost more importantly, how do you think that the younger generation is looking at potentially something like this?
Well, that's a good question. I still think people generally just want to build those rapports and relationships with other people, but hearing, like from as mentioned earlier, kind of a clinical way, I think maybe like a therapeutic type way too. And I'm not so sure on the, the relationship as far as like a boyfriend girlfriend type situation, but maybe more of like maybe somebody to hear me out or a therapeutic way to express my thoughts and to run through some ideas. One thing that would scare me a little bit that we all come into contact with AI, chat GPTs and so forth, and their competition today though is the hallucination type stuff. And so and I would and sometimes when you're might be asking for advice and it could be something more in the serious realm, it could get somebody in trouble, and lead to some suggestions in ways that could cause harm too. So I would think about that. Yeah.
I threw a link into the chat to the Wikipedia page for the Star Trek episode, Star Trek Next Generation episode, Booby Trap. And for those of you who are not Star Trek fans, and I'm not going to spoil it here. I might spoil it that much, so just be a little bit careful. If you haven't seen it or don't want to be spoiled, then skip the next 2 minutes. But in that, Geordi falls in love with a hologram, with a construct of a real person that he asks the computer to create it, her, and then asks the computer to give her the personality based on recordings done of the real person, and it ends up giving it a personality, and he falls in love with her. And so, and I know this is going to sound a little strange, but then you go to the Blade Runner thing. So this is a common theme, but I feel like there's some precedents out there for people getting attached to different pieces of hardware. Some people fall in love with their cars. Some people really, they are emotional attachments. If something happens to one of those things, it's a personal traumatic event. So I don't know. I think this is fascinating. I think the idea of having it is fascinating. Since I don't have an Apple Vision Pro, I don't know that I'll ever experience it until I do. But who's to say that you shouldn't try? And if you do, what's wrong with it?
Yep.
So, let's see. I need to throw this in. It seems to be we're doing a lot of Apple Vision Pro stuff.
There must be a reason for that.
Thanks, David. This MacVoices is supported by Clean My Mac, your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. Try Clean My Mac for 7 days free, then use the code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. Do you know the easiest way to save time and trouble later? Invest a little time and effort now. Inevitably, when things go wrong, it happens at the worst possible time. That's especially true of your Mac, something you depend on all the time. You could find yourself wasting hours of time when you could have just spent a few minutes with Clean My Mac. When you use Clean My Mac, you are using the ultimate tool for keeping your Mac more secure, more organized, and less likely to have issues. For example, the Moonlock anti-malware engine scans and removes viruses. Cleanup gets rid of system caches, development junk, and other unnecessary files. And of course, My Clutter eliminates download duplicates, saving space, and helping your organization efforts. Don't know about you, but I can use all the help I can get. Try it for 7 days free and use my code MacVoices20 for 20% off when you purchase at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's CLNMY.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Clean My Mac for their support of MacVoices. But I wanted the Apple Vision Pro people to tell me if this makes a difference, because now there's an Apple Immersive Video Utility that lets you manage Vision Pro videos on your Mac. Have any of you tried it? Does this make a difference in your mind in any way, shape, or form?
This is really, it's a pro app. It's for people who are creating spatial and immersive video to manage. And it's not necessarily for for a customer use kind of basis for us to be able to, any of the three of us, to be able to use. I've got the app, I've downloaded it. And it, you know, it is, as is in the article, different videos that are immersive videos that you might have access to, that you can kind of create your own folder system for. But it really is, I think, for folks who are using quite expensive cameras to create projects, and then this becomes their storage place for the projects. And it's connected directly to their Mac, which means they can go from Vision headset to Mac. It just makes it a lot more convenient than it was without the app.
Yeah,
Sorry, Dave, I cut you off. Yeah.
Oh, good. You can have a much larger library of video as well, and an option to deal with multiple headsets. So if you're in a case where you have a room of 15 Vision Pro users, having that all local, so that you're not trying to stream over the internet huge movies. So yes, right now it's for people developing immersive video. Not for like home libraries, but I think that it will expand as more movies become available. Something similar to it will probably exist in the future, but it's a really good sign that the Apple Vision Pro is here for the long run.
Yes.
And that there will be a lot more headsets going forward.
Does this make any difference as to the ability to watch videos or organize videos that normally would be played on the Apple Vision Pro on your Mac? I mean, in other words, can I build up my little library of immersive videos on my Mac and see them, and then if I really want the full experience, load them in or go play them on my Apple Vision Pro?
I guess I never really tried that, but I think you pretty much would be just sending it to your Vision Pro to go look at something.
If I'm creating an immersive video and I've got 3 other videographers with me and a producer or a director of it, this allows us to each put on a headset and play it off a single source, which for editing or for development purposes, I think would be pretty incredible. Instead of having to have it on all devices, we can watch it simultaneously and make comments around whatever we're trying to produce.
Okay. Again, I find it interesting that each week it seems we find 1 or 2 little Apple Vision Pro stories, nothing huge, but just a couple little steps forward that, okay, now it's got this, now you're going to have that. One can only hope that we continue to see this. Back to the virtual friend thing for just a second. Rich in the chat room has, I think he has compared us to a pet rock, that we are his virtual friends. So, I'm sorry, Rich. I'd like to think we're better than a pet rock. And nobody says anything. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the backup there. Yeah, exactly.
For some of us, a pet rock would be a step up.
I liked my pet rocks.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone there. Sorry. Okay. This is almost under the heading of a PSA, sort of that, just so you're aware, Apple has been hit with more class action lawsuits over the delayed
Who saw that coming?
Features. Yeah.
Not Siri.
I guess the West not.
Sorry.
Wow.
That was a delayed joke, but that was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the lesson I just took away from this is, when you start to wonder why Apple won't talk about products, unannounced products or whatever, this is why. Because as soon as they slip a little bit, somebody's going to file a lawsuit, whether it's justified or not. and I think we had that conversation a few weeks ago, that the wolves are out there just waiting to try to get their hands on some Apple Cash, and not the kind that comes with the Apple Card. So this is another one, another lawsuit. Since we're doing lawsuits, let's do this one.
Your favorite.
Boy, that $5 billion class action lawsuit over Apple's ebook licensing is based on false premise. This is from Apple Insider. It's worth the read because it appears to be pretty balanced. It appears to be factual as opposed to what the plaintiff's attorneys are trying to do and make it perceptual. And if I'm understanding the issue correctly, Apple can lose the rights to distribute a book. I mean, we've talked about this. You are not buying a book. You are renting a book. You are renting the license to the book. You're buying the license to the book. So if the book is downloaded to your iPad and then it gets deleted from the Apple Store, the lawsuit seems to be saying, okay, well, Apple, you have no longer given the person access to that. And the defense seems to be, and also well within the terms of service, that Apple never reaches out and deletes the book from your iPad. If you've downloaded it, it's there, and you can do with it as you will. You just may not be able to re-download it. And if you switch iPads or something happens to your iPad, that may be an issue. But again, this is all within the terms of service. And yet somebody has decided, oh, we're going to go and try to hit Apple for $5 billion. Out of control.
Well, it's interesting because they didn't cover the one case that I see mentioned a lot, and that is that you go and you buy a book, and then a year later, the author decides they didn't like the way it was written, rewrites the book, and you get an upgrade, and it's totally different from the book you originally read. And there's not really warning that it's that totally different. Usually it's just edits and things like that. And, there are people who are saying, well, I got the original book and you removed the good parts of my romance novel and now it's, suitable for kids. And I'm not happy with that. Well, that's what that particular argument was that I was reading recently. And, why? I think that's, fully allowable. It's just a license. You could have backed up the original book and then restored it. But this is why hard copy books are nice too. Get one of each. Support the author.
Do you think some class action attorney is going to be upset when they reshoot that last episode of Mythic Quest and say, you took away my original one? Seriously, that's how ridiculous this is. I'll give you another example. It's not book related, and I've talked about this on the show before, but just as a reminder, I have a traditional cable service. Damn me if you want to, but with it has a with Spectrum, and it has a VCR or VTR on it, recording box.
Yeah.
And when they had these carriage disputes between Spectrum and CBS in this particular case, they went in and technically they didn't do this, but they went in and everything that I had recorded that was CBS, they erased it. It's gone through this carriage dispute. And then when they got it settled, they didn't put it back, which also was infuriating to me too. So I don't know. Maybe I'll hire a lawyer and go sue Spectrum for it. But it's the way that licensing is, and that's what it is. That's why books are a great format. Yeah, it's convenient to have it, digitally, whatever that I'm reading. But sometimes I just like having that magazine in my hand for whatever reason. So anyway,
yep,
it's the way of the world, though.
Webb, the only thing that I might challenge you on that is if you recorded something off of CBS, did you pay for it? Did you purchase it as opposed to just recording it?
No, it was just a TV show that I recorded.
Right. Okay. So here again, you have to look at the terms of service. But I mean, I too would, believe me, I would be disturbed if somebody were reaching into any of my devices and deleting something because something ran out or there had been a dispute of some kind. My feeling is that if I've got it in my hands or on my hard drive,
Yeah.
then it's mine. But
I don't think they look at it that way. Now, I understand your point, though. The difference between I record something that was that I purchased, a movie, if you will, versus something that I recorded this over the air. I kind of see the difference that you're trying to make, but I still think that technically, if they had the Spectrum, in my case, if they had a license to hold that on their servers for 10 years and it gets to be 10 years, one day after the 10 years, I could see that they could come in and yank that right out of my world, whether I paid for it or not.
Brian?
Yeah, I would say we see this also in different industries too. In the video game space, we see this sometimes. A lot of times, if a game gets pulled and it's no longer available, if you try to re-download something, sometimes it's music that's in the game. So sometimes there's music rights that come into play where they may only have a license for a certain amount of time in order to, and for people to download that and have it. And if you happen to have that game downloaded and you lose it off of your hard drive, and you try to re-download it, in most cases you're going to be able to from the server, but there are times when that goes away and you're not able to anymore. A lot of times for music streaming rights.
Yeah. Marty?
Yeah, I was real interested in Apple's book platform when it first came out because there were opportunities in it to be able to create books. And then they went through the original lawsuit, which was with some of the major textbook publishers, that they had problems and they had to sort through that. And so I pulled away from doing anything on that platform. And I think they probably stopped self-publishing on that platform, or the attempts to do it, and instead went with Amazon. So I have a book on Amazon that I wanted to create a digital book, and that's what I did. But it's not as salacious as the stuff that Eric reads, apparently. It's on supervision. And but the thing about the books, which I think is fascinating, and to what Eric says, is if I go to this book and links stop working after a couple of years, I can go back and do a new issue of that book with corrected links on it. And the next time somebody downloads the book, they don't get the original, they get the corrected copy that I've done if I want to do that. And then, of course, new people who buy the book will also get the corrected copy. So there is a way that the idea of editions or versions don't matter anymore with the digital publishing. So I'm not surprised that this lawsuit occurred. I think there is supposed to be a stupid button, I think, on an iPhone, which apparently this person did not have engaged to think that they were going to download something off a server and it was going to be something that they would always own, that they're not, besides all the conditions that were stated as part of the content conditions for it. So,
To your point, though, too, I'm going to point to Take Control Books, Joe Kissel's operation, that, they publish a book, they publish a 1.0 version, they publish a 1.1, 2, 3, then they might go to a version 2. Most of the time, the 0.1 upgrades are free. Sometimes, if they go to a full point update, they will charge something, an upgrade fee or whatever. But they've been doing this back when Adam and Tanya Angst owned it, for decades. Sort of turned the publishing model on its head, so that you could upgrade a book for either free or for a nominal amount, and then maybe if there was a completely new version, you had to pay an upgrade fee. So that concept is not new; it's been around. And it's worked out very well for both them and for the readers. So, for what it's worth. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.